Hey everyone, so next let's go ahead and learn another way to consume our predictive model. This one's going to be super useful. We're actually going to use Excel to get new data and run a prediction up to our predictive model here in Azure ML Studio and get back its prediction for whether or not someone's going to purchase a bike. So let's get started. First of all, you'll notice I've simplified my model a bit. I've deleted the summarized data pill, the normalized data pill, so I want you to take a look at your model and make sure it matches mine now. I still have my bike buyers data in select columns. I am using purchase bike numeric still because I'm using a linear regression and that's a numeric variable. And I'm using the original version of every variable, not any of the numeric versions. And make sure also you don't have purchase bike over here in your model. Otherwise you're going to get a perfect r squared of 1 since it's the same variable. Okay, let's move on. Got my split data, 0.7, 70% held out for training, 30 for testing. Got my random seed in there, trained my model. I'm predicting purchase bike numeric, that's what this means here, using linear regression. I've run everything, and now it's time to set up what we call a predictive web service. So pause the video if you need to catch up to this point, make sure you're with me, and make sure that you have the green check in each one of these pills. If you don't have that, it's not going to work, and when you hover over set up web service here, these are going to be grayed out and unselectable. So pause the video if you need to, run the whole thing. Sometimes this gets grayed out even if there's a bunch of green checks. It's just a weird little caching bug. Don't worry about it. Just hit run and run the whole thing over again anyway. Alright, assuming you're caught up with me now, hover over Setup Web Service and click on Predictive Web Service. So let's do its thing. It's going to, now you see two tabs up here, whereas before we didn't have any tabs. Our prior model that we were working on is right here now under Training Experiment. Let me close this out so you can see. Now we have a new tab here called Predictive Experiment. So let me rearrange these so you can see them a bit better and I can zoom in. It's not impossible here. Zoom. Scroll up. Alright, so here's what it's done. It took, there we go. It took our split train linear regression, combined them all into this one pill right here, which is named after the name of our initial experiment. And it's running it into score model. Then we have the select columns coming in and what we call a web service input. So an API, I can't go into great depth on what REST APIs are, but it's basically, it stands for Application Programming Interface. It's a way for someone else or ourselves in a separate program to send data into our predictive model and then get an output back from our predictive model. So it's part of what was initially called a service-oriented architecture, which separated out pieces of programming logic so they could be easily modified and updated and replaced. Anyway, I'm going to assume you know what APIs are, and if you don't, still just follow along with me, you're going to be okay. So what we want to do is customize this a bit. Currently, we have a web service input coming into our select columns, the same place where our bike buyers data is coming in. So let me show you what's going to happen, and we're going to have to modify and fix this, and I'll show you why in a minute. So for now, just watch the video, don't do this part. Okay, I'm going to run everything. I'll pause this video while it's running. Okay, now it's finished running. I can now deploy the web service. So let's click this. It's going to auto-generate a RESTful web service here, and it's given me some documentation about it. I have an API key, and then I also have two different versions of the API. One for a single request response where I send up the details of one potential bike buyer and I get back a prediction of how likely that person is to buy a bike. Or I can send up a whole batch of potential bike buyers and get back a batch prediction. So click the test, or just watch me, click the test button here, and it says enter data to predict. Well, look what it wants. It wants ID, marital status, gender, marital status, numeric. Now wait a minute, we didn't include all these, we removed them with our select columns pill. Why does it want both the numeric and the categorical versions of all these variables? So the reason for this, if we come back here to our experiments, also you'll notice that I now have two versions of my project, a predictive experiment version and the regular version. It doesn't matter which one I click on, it'll take me right back here. So when I click on Predictive Web Experiment, the problem is that my web service input is coming into just before the select columns. So before this pill is processed, remember this is a linear process here, but before the select columns process, it doesn't realize that I've ruled out a bunch of columns. So what this input sees is the fields for everything in my bike buyers data. Well, I don't want it to include the stuff I weeded out from the select columns, so what I need to do is click this and drag it down to here. This is where I want you to start following along with me now. So in your model, go ahead and change that connection from before select columns to after it right here into the score model pill. Now, when we do that, let's deploy web service again. It says, oh, first I got to run the experiment. Okay, run it all. Let me pause. Okay, that's done. Let me clear that out. Okay, now let's go ahead and deploy web service. It's going to say, do you want to overwrite your previous one? Yes, go ahead and overwrite, no problem. All right, thinking, here we go. So now when we test it, you'll notice it doesn't ask for ID. It doesn't ask for marital status numeric, just marital status. There we go. Notice it does ask for purchase bike numeric. That seems like a problem because you might say, well, wait a minute. The whole purpose of generating this prediction is because we want to predict for people who've never come into our store before. We want to predict whether or not they'll purchase a bike. So we know whether to send them advertisements, mailers, or what type of advertisements to send them. This is not something I've been able to figure out how to fix or change yet on Azure ML Studio. Just know that this purchase bike numeric value is going to be ignored. It doesn't matter a bit what I put in here. I can put in any number I feel like. It's going to be ignored. So let me go ahead and put in something valid here. Let's put in single, gender, female, income. I think the average was like a 70,000 or data. We'll put 2 kids, cars 2, age 32, purchase bike numeric. Again, doesn't matter what we have in there. Education, I think we'll put graduate. It has to be a value. Well, it should be a value that already appears in our data, spelled the same way. Occupation, I think management was one of them. Homeowner, we'll put yes. Commute distance, I think 10+ miles was one of them, like that. Region, we'll put Pacific was one of them. So we hit check, come back here, and it's going to now say, all right, here's the data. Actually, it's going to return back all the data it gave to us, or that we gave the web service, plus its prediction. And the prediction is 0.35327. You can pull that up. So here's the output, and it says here's the data format that it came in. Here's the values. Then the values that were sent back. They sent back to us all of the inputs we gave it, plus the prediction, the scored label. I think I want to fix that. Let's change that one last thing so that we don't get all of our input data back. And here's how we do that. So let's come back here to our predictive experiment again. So again, remember that we have both the training, that's not the one we want to edit, we want to do the predictive. Oh, but by the way, you can come back here and edit anything you want, and then you can update the predictive experiment. You don't have to recreate everything from scratch again. Anyway, back here on the predictive experiment, let's add another select columns pill. We're going to put that in between our scored model. This is where it gives us the scored label, and then web service output is where it sends it back to whatever application called it. What I want to do now is launch column selector and tell it all we want are the scored labels back. We don't want all the input data that we gave to it again. All we need is a prediction. Check the box. Let's run this whole thing. I think because it's cached, it'll only take it a second, so I won't pause the video. Oh, maybe I should. Oh no, there we go. Select columns. All right, there we go. Let's now redeploy and overwrite the previous web service. Okay, let's test this thing. Put in some values again. This time we'll put in married, gender male, income. What did we do before? 70,000. Children, 2 again. Cars, 2 again. I think what really made a difference before was actually the commute distance. Again, purchase bike doesn't matter. Put in whatever you feel like in there. Education, bachelor's. Was there an S? I can't remember. Oh, well, that's all right. Clerical was one of them. Homeowner, no. Commute distance. Let's try 1 to 2 miles. I think that's one of the entries. And we'll do 0, 1. We'll try that out. Okay. Here we go. This is different. See this now, what was returned instead of returning all of our input data, it just returned back the scored label. Let's go to the details. There we go. So a much simpler, cleaner output back when we use that select columns. Okay, that's done. What I want to do now is click on this. Let me show you once again. On the request response, I want to click on this Excel 2000 or later option. And what it's going to do is download or export an Excel document that has an add-in enabled. I keep using Mac on my PC side. Sorry, not Mac. Use the PC version is what I meant to say. All right. Oh, and by the way, this add-in doesn't work on the Mac version of Excel. So, let me take care of this real fast. Okay, there we go. So here in Excel, you'll notice it comes with this this Azure Machine Learning add-in over here. I'll show you in a minute how to get this permanently. Anyway, click on this Introduction to Azure ML by Byers. Let's start by viewing the schema here. It says, all right, here's what we're looking for as inputs, same things we've input before under model, and here's what it's going to give us back. So every API has a set of inputs and outputs like that. Let's close this. Predict. Okay, it says type the range of data you want to send up as inputs. Now we could type in the data with headers, but it gave us this nice fancy use sample data feature right here where it'll pull in 5 rows or 5 records for us. And then we can just say that's the data we want to use right there as our input. And again, remember, purchase bike, it doesn't matter at all what goes into here. That will be ignored. But what we want is to now put right here our output, our prediction for each one. So let's put, I have to use this same format here. I have to say the whole stupid sheet 1, exclamation point, and then M1. Now I'm going to get a prediction. Oh, and I'm going to say this include the headers for the output, and I'm going to include the headers for the input. That's this row 1 right here. So with my output, even though it's going to print out to M1 through M6, I only put M1 right here. I have no idea why that's how they made it. But anyway, just click the predict button. Oops, let me type that in one more time. Oh, sheet. What did I do? Somehow I lost it. Okay, predict. There we go. Okay, cool. Here I have it brought back my scored labels. Predicts for these people. Purchase, purchase, don't purchase, won't purchase. Anyway, so that's how I use the predictive API from Excel. Now there's a lot of cool ways I can use this actually. Let me show you some things I could do with this. Let's build a chart that automatically graphs. Let's grab column M and I don't know, something else that was interesting. Income, commute, no, let's do age. Whoops, I didn't mean to hit that button. Control. And let's insert a scatter plot over that right down here. So it's graphing, and I can change this. Purchase bike by age. All right. Don't want to format chart area anymore, but what I can do now is start pulling in other values here. Male, children 2, cars 1, age 40, purchase bike, doesn't matter, I just have to give it something. Graduate, skilled, manual, homeowner, yes. Commute distance, let's do 0 to 1 miles, Pacific. Now notice over here, as soon as I type that in, it automatically changed my input to L7 because it's using one of these Excel tables. As soon as I added a record to it, it automatically updates this thing. So I can just go ahead and hit predict again or auto predict, which is kind of nice. Watch how that works. So now it just gave me, oops, right there, another prediction and plotted it for me right there. That's our new dot. So let's see what auto predict does. I think what that means is I can type in another one right here. Oops, see, every time I move out of a cell, it's creating a new prediction. Now, I don't know, let's see, let me move this over to the side. Okay, so it won't give me the scored label until I've got everything in there, but it keeps checking after I move out of a cell. There we go. As soon as I filled in all the data, auto predicts for me, and it just added the new, what was my income, 80? Prediction. Oh, I'll have to adjust my my axis for it to show it because it's out here somewhere. But anyway, the possibilities are limitless. I've seen some pretty cool examples. There's a guy on YouTube that showed how he called an API into Excel to pull the data from his Fitbit watch, and it pulled in his heart rate in real time. And then it would, as it pulled in the heart rate and filled out this row, the row would then auto predict the predicted value of how likely he was to have a heart attack. And so right there in real time in Excel, it was constantly calling his Fitbit API, which would then automatically call his Azure Machine Learning Studio API. And during his presentation, graphed out over time his likelihood of having a heart attack. And it kept going up and down because he was nervous giving his talk and everything. So anyway, be creative. There's so many things you can do with this here. I want to show you now, finally, how to pull in any Azure API that's not yours into any Excel file. So if I hit insert right here, notice I've got a place that I can go to for Excel add-ins. Where are my add-in options here? One second. Okay, so I think the reason why I don't have the options, I need to first go and install it. What I want you to do, if you're interested, come here to this website. So here is where you can actually get the Azure Machine Learning API call, or whatever you want to call it, and have it available as an add-in in any Excel file. So I don't have to go here to my web service and export one that already has it built in. So come here to this website. What you might do is just search on Google for Azure Machine Learning Excel add-in and find the one that's here at the Microsoft Store. If you don't want to have to look at this whole thing and type it in, which you probably can't do anyway, it's so long. So let's try that real quick. Azure Machine Learning Studio Excel add-in. That's what I searched for to find it. Let's find the one that's from the App Store. Oh, it does not even show up on the first page. Let's see. Let's try this one. Microsoft Store. I don't have to try and copy. There we go. Right here. Perfect. This is the link we want. So click Get It Now. And it always does this to me. Notice, as soon as I hit OK, oh, well, it works now. Before, when I do it, especially on my Mac, when I hit OK, it just freezes. And so I have to close that window out and go click and then refresh the web page. And then when I click again, Get It, all of a sudden it works and it takes me to this page. Anyway, okay, I have the add-in now. Open in Excel. Yep, open Excel. All right, actually, let me close this one out. Oh, downloading, let that finish first, I guess. Okay, cool. Restart. Awesome. Okay, once you open Excel, this is what you get. This special page. I'm going to make a new sheet here. And if you ever want to get this, let me close Excel out and open it from scratch. Just open up a new one here. Let me close this one out too. Don't save that one. By the way, if you're on a Mac, you know this add-in doesn't work on a Mac. However, it does work on Excel 365 online. The online version does work, which is really great. So now that I've installed it, I can come here to Insert, and I should have, oh gosh, is it still not showing up? All right, try File, Options. Oh, here it is, Options, Add-ins. There we go. Go, Excel add-ins. No, that's not it either. So it looks like I might just have to use that file that I just downloaded. Yeah. So they start by giving us these pre-built APIs that we can test out. Click on this text sentiment analysis. Is pretty cool. Let's make a new sheet here. Put my cursor right there, grab sample data, and all it gives you here is this. Okay, give me the tweet, the text of some tweet. So let's put something in here. I really love this great video. Let's expand that out. Let's tell it, let's select our table. Click here so it knows that's our input data. output's going to be on sheet 2, exclamation point, B1, include headers, and let's predict. So this gives you a sentiment evaluation of a tweet. So it says this is a positive tweet and the score is pretty high here, 0.81. I'm not sure who made that. Well, Microsoft obviously made it, this sentiment analyzer, but I'm not sure what the scale is. I'm guessing -1 to +1. I'm not really sure though. Let's try something else. I really hate this stupid video. Great, let's predict again. Oh, I should just turn on auto predict. Really hate this stupid video. Nope. What if I put my cursor back in and then enter? There we go. Negative. Oh, so it's not 0. Well, maybe it means negative 0.16 in the negative direction. Anyway, sometimes it struggles. This is a super, that's a good word, crappy, bad word, video. Let's see how smart it is. Oh, not too smart. So it sees super and it probably doesn't know what to do with crappy. I wonder if I change that to super bad video. So the positive and the negative outweigh each other. Anyway, so what we can do though is add our own web service or somebody else's through this tool right here. So all we need is their URL and API key. Just ask them to send you. Go to here to their web service. Here's their API key. Copy. Paste right in here. URL. To get the URL, what we need to do is go to the documentation. So click here on this little request response link. And it's going to pull up some really great documentation. We're going to use more of this later in this book or in this video series. For now, all I want you to do is grab this request URI right here, this post address. Pop it right in here. Click add. Okay, now we have it. Here's our bike buyers. It's named after the name we gave it in Azure ML Studio. Click on it. We can use it however we want. We can have as many on here as we want. We can make one that automatically grabs input data from somewhere and then another one that auto predicts and gives us some output score. You can also combine this with other cool tools, like if you go into data, let's do a scrape from the web. Let's say we want to predict something about currency exchange rates. All we need to do is find a good URL that gives us, let's see, currency exchange rates. Perfect. Let's just grab a table, any data table. Let's try Wells Fargo's. Okay, perfect. So any web page that you have a data table on that's constantly updated, just grab the URL for that table, head back here to Excel, and using that data from Web Tool, paste that in there, hit OK. Now notice if I go to Advanced, if my, well, no, let's go back, let's skip that, go to OK. Okay, notice we have different ways to authenticate. So if your data table is behind some sort of security, we can use various credentials, username, password. Here is where you come to call any other web API that's not Azure ML Studio. You can do the same thing from right here. Super useful. Anyway, we'll stick here with the anonymous one. Connect. And it says, all right, scraping the data from that table. And it says, okay, here's the web page. We don't see a high-level table in the document, but go to table 0. Cool, and here's a currency exchange. And here, by the way, if you just want to go to the web page, here's what it looks like. But it'll automatically detect that table for you. And here's a longer version. Yeah, let's grab that one. We can do some sort of transform if we want to. I'll let you explore those on your own. For now, I just want to load it. There we go. Pulls that data into sheet 3 here, and you could combine that with your APIs over here to make some sort of automatic running prediction over time. Anyway, I'll maybe do a better video on this later on down the road, but for now, hope this helps. This is how we consume an Azure ML Studio API in Excel.